Good evening, everybody. Welcome to your City Council meeting for July 5th, 2016, 6 o'clock p.m. I'd like to call this meeting to order, and I'm going to stand for a moment of silence and a pledge of allegiance from Mr. Roulette.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Mr. Jerome?
Here.
Mr. Roulette?
Here.
Mr. Crail?
Here.
Ms. Rich? Here. Mr. Robson?
Here.
Mr. Slavy?
Here.
Ms. Tillett?
Here.
Okay, we have for the public comments, they're going to be limited to 3 minutes, 3 minutes per person. State your name and address and items that are not on tonight's agenda. And the first part here is from Mr. Murray. Jim Murray.
Jim Murray, 1224 Normandy Drive. Recently, our statistics and the crime statistics are taken quite a hit in the media. If you haven't seen it, we're being recorded and labeled as being Eustis and Leesburg. Well, I didn't know if anybody understood, but the crime statistics, the way they're based is they're sent out in every 6 months. They're sent out to the FBI and they're sent out under uniform crime reporting staffs. Well, each one of these set of statistics can be played with horribly. And what I mean by that is, when Chief O'Grady first came in, his murder rate went up 100%. Went from 0 to 1. If your neighbor happens to be walking around the neighborhood, let's take Loch Levin, for instance, and he walks in here in the middle of the night, and he starts hitting cars, opening car doors and taking change. He hits 20 cars, you've got 20 burglaries. If you came home in the afternoon and there were 20 homes with the front door kicked in, that would be the same 20 burglaries. So when you're taking these considerations into the stats, remember that it's not as bad as it is, and we need to get out there as a spokesman and explain why, instead of letting the media run with it the way it was. Thank you.
Hey, just real quick on that, we did put a newsletter out immediately after that. It's on Megan Allen's side, but went out for the police department in the city. Thank you. And next is Liz Winco.
Thank you. I'm Liz Winco, 8044 St. James Way. I'm chairperson for the Public Arts Commission, and this addresses the defunding and then the recreation of the ordinance. My members, Susan Mulholland, Stuart Lucian, and James Carlton, have asked me to read a letter to you, which I will give to Gwen, along with a matrix of what the other cities in Florida are doing. This letter is in reference to the City Council's decision on March 1st, 2016 to amend the public art ordinance by removing all requirements for either funding or placement of public art for any non-residential property. This amendment, in effect, eliminated the commission. We are in receipt of the new code, section 2.1500, which you made, I passed, I believe, on April 19th, 2016. That has recreated the commission. Without a monetary commitment from the city, it would be very difficult for our commission to plan and budget for the new code. So we are aware that the council has made reference to funding the commission itself. Please note that all of the 34 cities in Florida that currently have public arts programs are funded in some way by their respective cities. After looking at the attached matrix, we ask that you show your support for public art and set aside some funds for the commission. Mount Dora has a history of marketing itself as a city where art and artistic expression thrives. We pride ourselves in being a city of festivals and someplace special. We ask the commission to help us strengthen that city image. We respectfully submit this request for the 2016-17 fiscal year, so when we have presented our comprehensive plan to council, and with your guidance and support, there will be money to realize a project for the coming year. I thank you very much.
Thank you. We have, Bill Wandell, please.
I'm Bill Waddell, I live at 831 North Grandview. I spoke here, I guess it was about 2 weeks ago, two meetings ago. I'm sorry that I missed Mr. Eckert's presentation on code enforcement at that meeting, at one of the meetings in the interim period. He spoke about the impact and aggressive and proactive approach on code enforcement as on property values, and gave as an example the city of Miami Gardens, which I remember many years ago was not too beautiful. I also read Miss Ritchie's article in the Orlando Sentinel, and I can hardly wait for the newspapers to be liable for what they print. I do agree that there is no law against ugly, which has been reiterated several times by both the code enforcement and also when I was here before the captain. However, ugly doesn't mean unkept, overgrown, rotting wood, sinking porches, termites, rodent infestation, falling fences, etc. Our code enforcement should be more legally empowered to deal with code infractions. I was told once that they could not look in the back, they could only drive by, and if they saw something, then do it. But they were not permitted in the backyards. That's the first time I've ever heard that in all the municipalities in South Florida. It's not really the ideal thing to get a note or a memo, not a note, but a card hung on your doorknob or a mailbox. You need to send a registered letter. It has far more impact than a note on your doorknob. Let's see here. This eliminates who is responsible. When the owner gets one and the tenant gets one, there has been a relationship between the two, I hope, at the beginning of the contract or whatever it may be, and therefore each one knows his responsibility. Let's see what else I have. All I want for the city is to have the owners and tenants clean it up. The lady before here that spoke said something about someplace special. I think Commissioner Tillett's idea of getting an extra person to help the code for a brief time, this person, Mr. Eckert, who is, I believe, on the Preservation Committee, knows what's going on in Mount Dora. If he's lived here for many, many years, he knows the areas that need cleaned up a little bit. And I think that was an ideal, excellent idea. All I want, as I said before, is the city to be cleaned up and made someplace special. We put so much money in the down.
Could you wrap it up, please?
Sure.
Thank you.
We put so much money in the downtown area because you found a lot of things that were left on your plate from probably 10 years of different people being on the commission. And I appreciate that. Yes, we should do something earnestly to start work on the rest of the city. There has been some minor things happening for the best that were promoted by the code, but at that rate, it'll take what the officer said before, 7 months to do anything about it, which is unrealistic. Thank you very much.
Thank you for your comments. Mr. Stewart?
Don Stewart, 1622 Normandy Drive, President Joseph Maldonado. I'm going to try to continue with my habit of never coming to council if it's not something positive, and I'm saying, and tonight's no exception. Recently, we had the privilege of partnering with Mount Dora Pride and the Triangle Connection to bring to the city David Consack's award-winning film, For the Bible Tells Me So. I am pleased to report to you tonight that the attendance at the community building was over 300, and with the combination of those ticket sales, the proceeds from the silent auction, the proceeds from the concessions that were set up at the event, and with the pledges that were given and matched by a donor, they were able to raise something in the range of $13,000, which will go to the sequel. Another side event, which is almost equally important to me, is that through David's intercession, we were able to get the board of directors, and they have voted to bring the Global Film Festival, which is a remarkable, internationally recognized film festival, to Mount Dora. And they will be bringing that shortly with the first film, and I will announce to you, if you don't see it advertised, what the location for that film will be. This is a big step forward and quite a cultural feather in Mount Dora's cap, and we hopefully these will continue on. But I wanted to give you something about that.
It was the Global Peace Festival.
Yes.
Peace Film Festival.
Yes,
Is that
that's
correct?
correct, yeah. I believe it will start with David's new film about hunger. I don't have a confirmation on that, but whatever comes up is going to be good.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
We have the approval of the agenda. First off, I'd like to request that we take the Slavin Management's presentation, put it at the end, and because he had, I think, some problems getting here. He is here now. Give a chance to relax and, for a while, but remember at the end of the meeting. If that's okay with everybody?
It's fine. I have one addition. Okay, then. I'd like to add, it'd be under, old business, I believe. I'd like to add an agenda item to consider discussing alternatives to the upcoming ethics seminar. I have some new information that just came to my attention. I'd just like to put that out and bring it out.
For discussion under that?
Yeah, just discussion under, alternatives to the. Thank you.
Any other changes, additions?
Move approval. Put those in the second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, that's. Okay, approval of the city council minutes, dated June 21st, 2016. A motion for approval.
Yeah, approved. I had an item there, item 2. I wanted to amend it, that it's under the ordinance 2016-04, item 2, that we keep the first 4 paragraphs and the last paragraph and remove the remaining portion.
Can you go through it again?
Sure, that's fine. It's on page 3 of the minutes. Yes, page 4. So you're correct, page 3, end of page 3. The 1, 2, 3, first 4 paragraphs, and then keep that, and then remove the next number of paragraphs, and then keep the last paragraph at the end. Could you explain that? Oh, sure. Well, just in keeping with a note I sent out to the city manager about our action minutes, while some might not like them, they are the minutes that we agreed to, and I just believe that those edits follow an action minutes philosophy.
In a kind of way, I think you're correct, but I don't know how it relates when we talk about ordinances, which we do get a lot more discussion on the ordinances, and we do pass an ordinance, and I think just taking a lot of times the little action items that we do is one thing, but I think when we get the ordinances and when we historically, when you look at an ordinance, why it was passed, why it wasn't passed, and I think, having some comments and some different notes, and I haven't read everything that was in there on the minutes, but, is there anything in there that's detrimental to the discussion? I guess what I'm getting at.
Sure. Okay, well then if there's no action there, then
There is action there, but I'm just thinking from the standpoint of an ordinance, because this is a little different, and when we do ordinances versus action minutes, and, maybe, Ms. Johnson can comment a little bit on that.
I can share what I was thinking when I did that. That was not an agenda item. That was something that came up under the city manager. So if I had just put the first paragraph and then the fact that there was a discussion and a majority consensus, no one would have any clue what that was about. So that's what I was thinking. But I'm at your pleasure,
fine.
whatever you all want, I'm happy to do.
I take a beating on this action minutes thing, so, I think we should leave it as it is.
If it's okay with the council, I will have a discussion, and I think between, Ms. Lineback and, Ms. Johnson and myself, I think we need to do some modifications there, if that's okay with everybody to do that also. And, so, we're just gonna do the first couple items that we talked about. Yours, anything else then?
I only had a question about the item, that took place before the meeting commenced, whether that was appropriate to then put it into the minutes of the body. First paragraph right at the beginning, I'm sorry.
Yes, I think that is appropriate to leave that in the minutes on account of the fact of that we did that. We want to make sure that that is noted, that it was done prior to the meeting being called to order.
That's fine. I move approval.
Also,
You all in favor? With the adjustments that were asked by
Aye.
Aye. Okay, this passes. Okay, request to purchase public safety software upgrades.
Mr. Mayor, City Council members, we have a presentation by Lieutenant Hunter in regards to our proposed purchase of public safety software. This would replace the software which I had to double check with Lieutenant Hunter, purchased in 1993, which is extraordinarily old software. I think it was dashes and dots or
So
something.
are we gonna use the stone tablets as part of public art?
We came away from the flag system, so we're going to knock off some of the cobwebs.
Sounds like we're all in agreement.
I guess we can sit down, right?
Looking forward to
The other problem is it's only been upgraded twice, so it's defunct, it's non-functional, and although the new system would cost $272,901, we do have money available in our discretionary sales tax funds, and we will urge you to approve the purchase of software, and we do have a resolution later in the agenda for such action to amend the budget if you're so inclined. And with that, I'd like to ask Lieutenant Hunter to make the presentation.
Okay, good evening, thank you. I'm Lieutenant Corey Hunter, from Mount Dora Police Department, and for the past 2.5 years, I've been the commander of the Administrative Services Bureau, which handles most of the department's support functions, such as the records departments, communications unit, recruiting and training, planning, some special projects. We also have some frontline activities like school resource program, community relations. Some of you may know me from the Citizens Police Academy we run. In my 16 years in the Mount Dora Police Department, I've seen the department go from what it was to what it is now. We've developed leaps and bounds since 2000 in areas of personnel quality, training, job expertise, equipment, and professionalism overall. We believe that the success of the police department has a very important role in the development and the image of the city of Mount Dora. And so leadership's role is to identify how an organization should and can flourish. A public safety agency flourishes when it can make people feel safe and cared for through providing quality police service. As we were reminded by recent events, we all rely upon our first responders to be the best they possibly can be in our time of need. And I'm here in front of you tonight to talk about the need to replace your public safety software. The current product has run its course, and the citizens of Mount Dora are no longer getting a return on their investment, as we referenced 1993. And it's our responsibility to ensure they have access to the best services possible available, because that's what we think they deserve. So for the past 2 years, we've been actively researching this matter, and I'd like to present it to you right now. First, allow me, without going into depth of the complete organizational structure, let me give you a brief snapshot of the police department. The size of our police department puts us in a category of medium size among law enforcement agencies nationwide. Often people make comparisons against much larger places like Orlando and Orange County, and so they think of us as small, but in actuality, the Department of Justice Bureau of Statistics says that out of all the agencies nationwide, 48% of them have fewer than 10 officers, serving an even fewer number of residents than ours. On top of that, we also service thousands of visitors each day, and as you can see in the pictures, tens of thousands throughout the year at our events. In the past several years, we've averaged 32 pre-scheduled special events per year, with an additional 5 or 6 added as requested. And our police department is responsible for the safety of every one of those people while they visit our special city. We consider ourselves ambassadors of the city, and their feelings of safety and comfort, we know, influence how they feel about Mount Dora overall. So the Mount Dora Police Department is a public safety answering point, or PSAP, which means that we're 1 of 6 in Lake County. It means when our citizens call the police, they are connected directly with the Mount Dora Police Department, and therefore we're able to give them the service immediately at the level that they've come to expect in Mount Dora. In 2015, we answered nearly 62,000 telephone calls from the public, which averaged out to 170 calls per day, roughly 70 per hour. In addition to those, we handled 4,379 emergency 911 calls, which breaks down to roughly 1 every hour and a half to 2 hours. Our communications officers process each and every one of these calls and dispatch our officers as needed. Our officers generated over 3,600 reports in 2015, all of which were reviewed by supervisors and processed through the records department. 600 plus cases were assigned to detectives for follow-up investigation, and over 500 arrests remain. And so the significance is every detail of every call and or case is documented or retained as required, either by law or by evidence purposes. So we rely on software to generate, process, and catalog all this documentation. So you see where efficiency and accuracy would be critical in these areas. So our current software product is from USA Software, as mentioned, purchased in 1993. The issue with that is that we've received only 2 major system upgrades of the product since acquiring it 23 years ago. The relative industry standard for system upgrades is every 18 to 24 months. You may recognize, just like your iPhone, when you get an update, it's time for new software, new version, or to buy a new phone. So we know that good companies upgrade their system regularly with new technology to keep up with the fast pace of advancement. Our USA's lack of a comprehensive product also means that we have to pay for additional modules, anywhere from $600 to $6,000 for each one. Some of the limitations: USA Software has a regional customer base with approximately 150 customers, mostly throughout Florida and Georgia. And we know the customers and their needs drive product development. The more customers, the more drive out of that development. That is, if you want to keep customers and attract more. In regards to other limitations, the lack of updated technology affects the efficiency of our officers in these other key areas. Our dispatchers are not able to get as much information out to the officers as quickly as possible. Our officers' report writing is slowed by unnecessary duplication and lack of automation. Our officers and detectives alike are hindered by the lack of search and investigative tools that are common in other products of today. So, for instance, if an officer was to provide a suspect description of a man with horns tattooed on his forehead, you would call that a unique description, and you would expect the officer to be able to check and reference, get an identity, anyone matching that identity that has contact with law enforcement in the past. Presently, if we haven't contacted him before, then we can't identify him based on that description alone. So the other 2 points at the bottom relate to data sharing, and I'll get to that in a second. So the ideal, so in our research testing, the ideal public safety software product is designed specifically to address the needs of such an organization. Within public safety, law enforcement has its own set of unique needs. These type of software companies, they number in the hundreds nationwide and internationally. Typically, the larger the company, the more comprehensive the product, because once again, they build their product from the input and needs of their customers. Because there are so many companies and products, we looked at what would be the best fit for us as an organization and the citizens of Mount Dora. As you'll see in a moment, there was a company with a large footprint in our local area, which gave us a baseline to measure against all our testing. And of course, the ideal company and its product should be viable for as long as we need. We know a company can do this by continuously reinvesting in themselves and their product. As I mentioned before, the Mount Dora Police Department researched various companies for the past 2 years and compared them against the current product and company. Among the factors considered, we focused on product features, customer service, and company stability. And from that, Spillman Technologies became the clear choice, and I'll explain why. So these are some of the highlights about Spillman and their product. They've been in the public safety software space for over 30 years, and they're ranked among the top in the business. Following the industry standard, they completely upgrade their system version every 18 to 24 months, along with regular enhancements between versions. These are all done remotely at no additional cost and with little to no interruption in service or use of the product, just like your iPhone. Spillman also has a very large customer base across the nation, also with a large, significant presence in Lake County, Florida. The Lake County Sheriff's Office has been a Spillman customer since 2010. Tavares, Eustis, Umatilla, Groveland, and Claremont are customers as well. Becoming the 7th member of this group not only offers increased data sharing for the Lake County community, but increases our stakeholding with the company. There's also the benefit of additional local customer support, and the lack of extra hardware reduces the strain on our own IT department to support the 24/7 needs of the police department. So next one, we'll go into a quick side-by-side comparison of our current software. As you can see, this is everything we have currently. These are pretty commonplace, basic functions of public safety software. We use them daily, and essentially it is better than handwriting reports, and that's what we get from that. As we go into, you'll see Spillman here. Before I go into all the list of Spillman, interconnectivity and information sharing with other agencies, I'll go into a little more in detail, but essentially we will share information and data with those other agencies I mentioned, and as well as all the other 1,600 customers of Spillman as well. All that information is available. One thing I wanted to point out, so in the current software, there are an average of 25 data entry points on each report. That's the highlighted yellow areas there. That's what a report face sheet looks like, and all those yellow areas have to be manually entered by the police officer on the street on the rights report. Nothing auto-populates from anything. They start from scratch. Every report that they open, they fill out every one of those items. And so they have to fill out incident, victim, witness, suspect, property information, and then of course the narrative as well. Then that's multiplied with each additional item type, so each additional suspect or item, property item, or victim, or anything of that nature is multiplied. Good news about that is our officers become very good at typing, but we of course would much rather they're out there protecting us. Auto-population from national databases and CAD systems into the report system eliminates unnecessary data entry and decreases room for error in report writing. We know that auto-population can reduce report writing time by at least 50%. It also streamlines the record-keeping processes behind the scenes as well. As only one example, I'm sure most people don't realize that every citation or written warning issued by an officer is currently, because of our product, is manually entered into our system by a records clerk. So once again, every line, your first, last name, middle name, every piece of information is manually entered. You see where that can be not only time consuming, but prone to errors. And let's get on the list, and these are the other things that come with Spillman. And of course, course, we look for integration, complete integration of the product. Essentially, the information, once you put it in, it's available to you. It's not partitioned off within its own product. So we talked about data sharing. We know that these agencies use this product. Data sharing means that information is shared. That's what it means. They put in something, we can see it. Remember our suspect with the tattoo forehead? If he was stopped and identified by police in Claremont a week earlier as even just a suspicious person, we would now have the possible identity of the suspect in our own case, just like that. And quite frankly, when a citizen's been victimized, they don't want to, they expect the police to be all knowing about anything crime related. And honestly, that's how we want them to feel. As bad guys think the same thing, so they don't think that our city is a place that they can come and operate. Comparative statistics allow us to analyze both crime and officer productivity, which tells managers how to best use resources to keep our citizens safe. Today we rely on a third-party vendor to interpret the data we put into USA software, because USA cannot export our own data into a usable format that we can read. Although better than nothing at all, the third-party interpretation is often corrupted and unreliable, because it's no different than the phone game you play as kids, where the story changes from one person to another. It's pretty much the same concept when you're grabbing data from somewhere else. And then a major officer safety component is enhanced mobile capabilities that link officers in the field with information from callers via the dispatch center. So more real-time data is provided to the officers at their fingertips, which allows them to make more thoughtful decisions as they answer calls. So, in today's era, a component of superior policing involves technology, and using it both correctly and to its fullest. And comprehensive public safety software is not only a requirement for top law enforcement organizations, but an industry standard. Your Mount Dora Police Department is an accredited agency, one of only 3 in this county, and we constantly strive to operate above the industry standard, because that's what we believe our citizens deserve. And of course, the Mount Dora Police Department actively pursues any and all resources that we believe could potentially save lives. And so I'll wrap it up by saying that we believe replacing our inefficient, outdated software with a more comprehensive and reliable product will aid the Mount Dora Police Department to better serve the community and reinforce safety as a priority. And now I'd like to have John Shamblin from the IT department come up, and she'll give you a perspective on IT.
Good evening. I'm Shauna Shamblin with the IT department. I came on board with the city in 1998, so I have a long history of supporting the city's software, and specifically the police department USA software. IT has been involved with the police department's software, not only supporting them on a daily basis, but also in the search process for new software. We facilitated and participated in many meetings and phone calls, attempting to get USA to fix the numerous problems that they have to get their product to function properly. We've sat through every software evaluation the police department has held to ensure that they end up with, not only that they end up with a product that meets their needs, but is running on industry standard platforms and will be easier to support from IT's perspective. To reiterate what Lieutenant Hunter has expressed, USA software is simply inadequate. They haven't kept up with technology, with the technology advancements in the field. It's obvious when we review the other software vendors and saw the features that they have available as standard that USA is very lacking. Major software upgrades every 5 or more years is frankly ridiculous. The industry standards on upgrades obviously varies, but we typically see major upgrades every 1.5 to 2 years. That's very standard. Supporting USA software has been very labor intensive, and so without forgive me if I get too technical, but the installation process is completely manual. It installs to non-standard location, creating problems with user rights. The install is user-specific instead of computer-specific, so we have to manage every individual user logging into the computer, manage their software specific configurations. After the installation, we have to manually edit registry keys to correct paths because the installation process itself is so convoluted. The list goes on and on. We, in all of our meetings over the past couple of years, we compile a list of these inadequacies, talked with USA Software about it, but the list is 3 pages long. It goes on and on. The fact that USA Software does not auto-populate from one module to another speaks volumes about their product. Our new BSA financial software auto-populates. If you enter a purchase order, it populates that information into the accounts payable for when you pay the invoices. If you, when they create records in utility billing, it auto-populates work orders. So it's very standard, and the fact that USA does not do that tells you where they're going with their product. Spillman not only meets the police department's needs from their viewpoint, but it also meets the needs from the IT's viewpoint. The product is state-of-the-art. It's industry standard. The data will be partitioned and secured for our agency. The purchase is proprietary. Since we're buying a license on the share system, we do not need to invest in a host licensing or our own server infrastructure. We can, at any point in the future, if they decide to break off from the share system, we can bring that data back in-house on our own system, and we would still have the ability to share data with the other agencies. The Sheriff's Office server room is located at the Lake County ECOC building in a secure location with power and AC redundancy, and the server is replicated to another server, so they have additional layers of safety built in. They in case of failure, their backups are on-site and off-site, and they're also in the process of creating an agreement with the city of Leesburg to create a cold site there, so that if they do lose an entire site, they can restore a backup in the city of Leesburg, and their backups are very frequent, so several times a day. They can restore a backup in the city of Leesburg site and be back up and running in no time. So Spillman even offers training for IT staff to become certified Spillman system administrators. So that's the fact that they are investing in that tells us they want us to be successful. So in summary, it's a great product, and the IT department fully supports moving to Spillman.
Members of Council, Mike Shepherd, Finance Director. As everybody has stated already, the software that's been chosen has been vetted. They've also looked at numerous other products, and this particular one is proprietary in nature, and which means that Lake County is the lead on all this. They did the initial RFPs and so forth. We are piggybacking more or less off that so that we can use the resources that are available to them and the other 6 entities within the Lake County jurisdiction. The monies are available in the sales tax revenue fund. At the end of this year, it's projected prior to this to have about a little over $1 million left in there, so there's the 273 would come out of there. And this money is logically used for that. It's designed for public safety and other infrastructure issues.
And just in closing, I'm hoping we don't need any more of a sales job, but your team, you just saw 3 different departments come up here to tell you about one product. When I came here my first 10 months, reviewed everything, I saw that we were lacking in our software, so we started the process, and we got IT on board, finance on board, and Foy was the lead on that, and so we have done our due diligence to the point where, and I'm up here to speak about the USA history, Coy hit every other point. I met with the owner about 1 year after I was here. We had a heart-to-heart, so to speak, and I took user issue. I took a step back, we brought training in, we retrained everybody, we had some new officers come in. That wasn't the problem. So here we are today, and I would just tell you, USA's had every opportunity to step up. I'm huge on customer service. That's what I do for a living, and if I don't get customer service with my products, we do look elsewhere, and I think the product that our team's asking you to authorize is the way to go. So, thank you.
We have a recommendation to purchase the new public safety software from Spillman at a cost of $272,901 from discretionary sales tax. I get a motion. Second.
I went over to the police department this morning, and because I wanted to lay my hands on the old system and, sort of see exactly what was wrong with it. And I am fully in support of this. It was amazing to me that warning tickets, traffic tickets have to be hand jammed, manually entered into the system, not once, but twice, to meet the requirements. And printing, in the old system, if you need to print a file, say for, the ladies there had one public record request that was a stack of papers this high and another half a stack this high. So in order to actually print out this file, because it doesn't conglomerate the files into one big one, like a zip file, they have to open one, print it, close it, go to the next one, open it, print it, close it, and so forth, and so forth, and so forth. And apparently this new software will give them the ability to print a file. In other words, print the whole thing, all 3,000 pages or however many pages are needed. I was also impressed the fact that there were no additional upgrades needed to the physical facility. The room is adequate, power, AC, number of phone lines, no need to increase the size of the router system, and that the only thing that to me is a little maybe not hard to manage, but burdensome will be when they do transition over. The legacy data that remains is going to have to come over piecemeal by hand. Is that not correct, Lieutenant Hunter?
Yeah, so we'll still have access to it.
But that will also ensure that only the data that you want will come over instead of masses and masses of data that might be usable in the new world. And that as far as I could see, there was not going to be any decrease in productivity during the transition time, that it was basically a flip the switch type of thing, that they would continue to operate on the old system until the new system was up, fully running, and everybody was trained. I didn't really see any downsides to this new thing. So anyway, it's very interesting. Thank you again and the people that participated. As we all know, human error is the easiest thing to do, and it's so easy to, fat finger something into a database where it can remain to haunt you forever. So, anyway, I support it.
Reminds me of the police department driving a Model A in 2016. Other states with which I'm familiar have been integrated in their communication, police department and law enforcement communication system for decades. And one only needs to think back to 9/11. Remember that? The fire department didn't talk to the police department didn't communicate with the Port Authority, and communication was a major issue and an embarrassment to the United States. This is long overdue. It's just taking too long. If it doesn't happen again, that it's so long to integrate this. If you have some computer that is 23 years old, you heard the laughing in the audience. They all know. So.
I my comment is, let's do with your accreditation, it's amazing that we get through the accreditation when you do, based on that software, because, you know, being part of the CPA class, understand all the paperwork that you guys go through, and not realizing the difficulty of putting all that information in, so I can see this as being a tremendous plus for the police department, help maintaining the accreditation as you move forward with this, and, open up to the public for any comments from the public on this issue. Everybody first, you want to comment first?
I have a couple of questions. When I say I like the software, but I also have some questions. In whatever statistic you might want to share, you talked about it, or alluded to efficiency. What do you think the citizens might see? You know, like more, I don't know a good statistic, but like more road time for officers, or how would you describe that?
Absolutely. So you have an officer, they go to the road with their car, and they take the report, they interview the victims, and they check for any sort of suspect information, maybe look at, you know, witnesses, neighbors, talk to everything, process the crime scene, and they complete their time at the scene. And what you don't really see is that then they go and then they type a report from start to finish. So I showed you the little sample report. So they then spend time that while their fingers are typing and they're putting all the information in, and they're verifying the names with what they're putting in, or doing data entry while they're doing that, they're not patrolling. They're not patrolling, they're not driving around, they're not looking, they're not more readily available for the next thing to happen. Of course, if something happens, they drop what they're doing and they go to it, but it just creates more time all around. If they do drop what they're doing, they go to something else, then they're going to have to come back to that at some point. So by having things, auto-population, more information, and things that are available at their fingertips, then they're in and out. Literally, in the software, you're swiping a driver's license, it auto-populates all of that person's information into the report directly, or any other information that you've communicated through dispatch, and that's in the report. The time, the date, the address, the type of call, the name, everything is in there from the start. So when the officer sits down and starts the report, 85% of it's done. They write a narrative, and they can even go as far as Spelman has templates, narrative templates that can even simplify that process. So it does. When we say 50%, we saw with our traffic crash software over the past several years, the state of Florida implemented a program called TRAX, and it's a free software that it auto-populates the information. So we've seen over the years that auto-population reduces our times on traffic crashes and doing reports by at least about 50%.
Thank you. And my other question is there a citizen interface where citizens can get information, like a police report for themselves? Or
There's, currently, I don't know of anything particular, but I can say that with this company, when that is a commonplace thing, this company likely will add it. Versus now, I know that's not even, a chance. I can say no.
That's good. And then my next question is budgeting. But is this a budgeted item, or is it in the 5-year plan? And I think I know the answer.
It is not in the 5-year plan. It was, like Chief said, when he came here, he evaluated it. He went to USA Software and said, here, we need to get this squared away. They could not do it. And since then, he's been moving forward doing this. But there is money available in the sales tax revenue fund. Like I said, we have over $1 million expected by 9/30/16. So we'll access those funds to accommodate the purchase of this.
So in the nicest way I can say it is, I'm a little growly about it that we put our public our citizens with an old software. I'd hoped that we could have found the money from somewhere else, that this would have been a higher priority sooner for us. But I'm glad we're here today. But I just would have thought that we would have had in a 5-year plan or annual budget, and it didn't just come up. But I'm just glad we're here. And then my last question is about the purchasing policy. I know that the USA software doesn't cut it, but and I know that Tiberius, Eustace, and others, you know, like if I were doing it, I think I would land in the same spot you are. But typically, when you look at a purchase that large, there would be a grid, and you'd say, look at some other software companies, and this is what they would charge. So at $279,000 or $273,000, I don't have any reference point. And so while my anecdotal, my gut tells me this is a great idea, I don't have anything really concrete to say that this is a reasonable price. And so I'm kind of throwing a softball out there for you guys, just hitting out of the park, you know, but help me out there.
So it comes so you know, so depending on, like I said, it's about having the best fit for your organization. So the Spillman product, as it's ranked one of the top 5 in the global market, it's very expensive in the scheme of if we were to get our own installation, our own server, our own site system, then you'd be looking at about $400,000 to $500,000 worth of product as the sheriff's office paid for. But by getting a site license, it's making that same powerful product reasonably priced, so we're getting a good bargain. Now, if we looked at other products that were our own, you know, standalone system that we don't have the data sharing, things like that, you're looking at about $200 to $250 for those products. As most of them say, hey, we're looking at Isaiah, looking at Spillman, what can you know, well, if they have the data sharing, that's what we're interested in, that's what I think everybody is motivated by. And they say, well, you're going to pay for that. And I said, well, is that what we're paying for? And so I think we're still getting very reasonable. Sheriff's office paid a lot more than what we can, so it's kind of jumping on those.
From what I understand, the sheriff's office and the surrounding municipalities are on board with this, so this big interface, and I believe that will definitely help you all with street activity if needed, and having instantaneous information fed back to you is good. And also having the autofill, less chance of error on entries where when it comes to court time, let's pick a new one. I agree with you 100% on it, and $273,000 doesn't seem like much. We gave way more than that to store owners for drapes and window trees and stuff like that. So I support it 100% for the citizens.
Anybody from the public wish to comment? State your name and address, please.
Susie Waddell, 831 North Grandview. The police department did their homework, they did a great presentation, and I urge the council to vote for that program. Stop leaving that guy around and vote for it. Thank you.
State your name and address, please.
Aaron Clark, 1545 Beach Court. Initially, I wanted to comment because I was concerned that we weren't going to be moving forward with something like this. Data sharing and technology in law enforcement is incredibly crucial. I mean, how many times have you seen information being exchanged between officers and between agencies save lives and save our citizens? I've been in this community for about 10 years, and I've seen it grow, I've seen it prosper, and I feel like if we didn't do this, we would be kind of putting a halt to that. So I'm glad to see that. It seems like a very positive outlook so far, but I was just concerned that we weren't going to be looking in the right direction when it comes to public safety. Public safety is the core of continuing our traditions here. Thank you.
Thank you. Anybody else from the public wish to comment? Back to council.
I'm ready to go. Say it.
I appreciate everything that's been done for this piece of software, and I think the police department and this council has, I think, always been very supportive of our police department. And I think what's nice about our support is that the police department does not ask us for their wants, like it asks us for their needs. And so when they ask us for something, it's generally a big need, and so we're generally here to support them. So have a roll call vote on this, please.
Mr. Robinson?
Yes.
Mr. Crail?
Yes.
Ms. Rich?
Oh, yes.
Mr. Slavy?
Yes.
Ms. Tillett?
Yes.
Mr. Roulette?
Yes.
Mayor Jerome?
Yes. Thank you.
Lieutenant Hunter, I just have one final question. When do you anticipate, time-wise, that this will be up and running, flip the switch, inauguration day?
So it begins with the resolution. Once that they start negotiating a contract with the finance director immediately within a few days. And then from there, they start they assign a project manager to it to make sure it's customized for us. You have training, you have to train all the staff. And then when you're ready, you flip the switch. The company likes to say a year. We've heard that they want to stick to a year. We've heard from other places that it's about 6 months or so.
Okay. And, thank you very much for the presentation.
Thank you very much.
See there's some ordinances, first one, and, Mr. Root.
Yes, Mr. Mayor. Ordinance number 216, here's your microphone. Ordinance number 2016-04, an ordinance of the City of Mount Dora, Lake County, Florida, amending section 3.4.15 of the City of Mount Dora Land Development Code by revising the Employment Center zoning district, by revising the permitted, conditional, and prohibited uses, providing for legislative findings, implementing administrative actions, a savings provision, conflict, severability, codification, and scrivener's errors, and an effective date. And that's the ordinance by title, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you. Have a motion for approval?
So moved.
Second. Any comments?
Sorry.
This is final reading, so I assume there's no changes to this? No. Good assumption. Okay, anybody from any comments from the council members? Anybody from the public wish to comment? Seeing none, back to the council, and roll call, please.
Mr. Rolfson?
Yes.
Mr. Crail?
Yes.
Ms. Ridge?
Yes.
Mr. Slavy?
Yes.
Ms. Tillett?
Yes.
Mr. Roulette?
Yes.
Mayor Jerome?
Yes. Second item, in ordinance 2016-05, Mr. Groot.
Yes, Mr. Mayor, ordinance number 2016-05, an ordinance amending chapter 70, part 4, general employees retirement system of the Code of Ordinances of the City of Mount Dora, amending section 70.660, definitions, amending section 70.670, membership, amending section 70.680, Board of Trustees, amending section 70.690, finances and fund management, amending section 70.710, benefit amounts and eligibility, amending section 70.730, disability, amending section 70.750, optional forms of benefits, amending section 70.790, maximum pension, amending section 70.830, exemption from execution, non-assignability, amending section 70.880, prior government service, amending section 70.890, reemployment after retirement, providing for codification, providing for severability provisions, repealing all ordinances in conflict therewith, and providing an effective date. And that's the ordinance by title.
Okay, can I have a motion to approve that?
I so move and
Comment afterwards? And second? I'm gonna have this.
Oh, sure, of course. Mr. Mayor, City Council members, this is the first of the three pension fund ordinances before you. I just want to comment about all three in one fell swoop, if you will. These are necessitated by changes in the IRS. So they are mandated to comply with these new regulations. The actual study was conducted, and there's no fiscal impact on the city. So that is applicable to the three pension funds. I would like to ask if the mayor would indulge to have Charles Rebel, who's chair of the General Employees Pension Fund, to make a quick clarification, because here's a little deviation from that in terms of membership of the pension board and the General Employees Pension.
I'm Charles Rebel. The General Employees Pension Fund is a little bit different from the other two because this fund was closed in 2010, which means that there will be no new employees coming in to that particular pension fund. So the Board of Trustees that was set up when this was put into place has 5 members, a city manager, a citizen, and 3 employees. What's happening is we're having a hard time filling the employee spots because we've gone from, in 2010, there were 123 employees in the pension. It dropped to 81 in 2013, dropped to to 72 in 2014, and now we're down to 58. And of course, eventually there will be no employees in it. So the board wanted to plan for the future and basically modify, instead of having 3 employees fill the spots, have 1 elected employee, and the other 2 positions could either be an employee or a retiree. That way we could keep the 5. That's one difference in this particular ordinance compared to the other 2. The other thing we would like to do, and this has to do to maintain stability, the other 2 pension boards have 4-year terms. For whatever reason, this one was set for a 2-year term, which makes it difficult to have consistency and longevity between boards or trustees when they come in. Also, this is not a short-term gig. Basically, it takes a while to understand the mechanics and the finances of pensions, and we require by law to have training every year, and we go to a 3-year training program. So the 2-year term doesn't correspond very well to the 3-year training program. So those are the 2 changes that we're requesting.
The suggestions that you have are included in the resolution, are they not?
Yes.
Or are you just explaining the resolution?
Yes.
The desires you have? Well, it makes sense to me because this needs to change, as our manager certainly said. The IRS has essentially mandated that we do this, and the changes that Charles has explained certainly make some sense to me. That's all I have.
Any other comments from council? Anybody from the public wish to comment? Seeing none, are you ready back to council? Any others? Have a roll call, please.
Mr. Robinson?
Yes.
Ms. Ridge? Yes. Mr. Slavy?
Yes.
Ms. Tillett?
Yes.
Mr. Crail?
Yes.
Mr. Roulette?
Yes.
Mayor Brown?
Yes. And the first reading of 2016-06.
Yes, Mr. Mayor, ordinance number 2016-06, an ordinance of the city of Mount Dora, amending chapter 70, personnel, part of the police officer pension and retirement system of the city of Mount Dora Code of Ordinances, amending section 70.100 definitions, amending section 70.130 finances and fund management, amending section 70.150 benefits, amounts, and eligibility, amending section 70.160 pre-retirement death, amending section 70.170 disability, amending section 70.240 maximum pension, amending section 70.250 minimum distribution of benefits, amending section 70.360 prior police service, amending section 70.370 deferred retirement option plan, amending section 70.380 supplemental benefit component for special benefits, Chapter 185 share accounts, providing for codification, providing for substitute provisions, repealing all ordinances in conflict herewith, providing for an effective date. That's sort of the time, Mr. Mayor.
Okay, you have a motion for approval.
So,
Second. Any council wish to comment? We have the same comments as before, so anybody from the public wish to comment? Seeing none, back to the council. Yes. Roll call, please.
Mr. Crail?
yes.
Ms. Rich?
Yes.
Mr. Robinson?
Yes.
Mr. Slavy?
Yes.
Ms. Tillett?
Yes.
Mr. Roulette?
Yes.
Mayor Brown?
Yes. And first reading ordinance number 2016-07. Mr. Root?
Yes, Mr. Mayor, ordinance 2016-07, an ordinance of the city of Mount Dora amending chapter 70 personnel part 3 firefighters pension and retirement system of the Code of Ordinances of the city of Mount Dora, amending section 70.410 definitions, amending section 70.420 membership, amending section 70.440 finances and fund management, amending section 70.460 benefits, amounts, and eligibility, amending section 70.470 pre-retirement death, amending section 70.480 disability, amending section 70.490 vesting, amending section 70.550 maximum pension, amending section 70.615 military service prior to employment, amending section 70.616 prior fire service, amending section 70.618 deferred retirement option plan,
amending section 70.619 sheriff fund, providing for codification, providing for severability provisions, providing for ordinances in conflict herewith, and providing for an effective date. That's the only part I was doing.
Thank you. Motion for approval?
Move to approve.
Second.
Any comments again? Seeing none, public, first comment? Seeing none, back to council.
Just one.
Go ahead.
This is not a comment on the substance of it, but if the letters, all of the correspondence is to be kept as copied, the word "not" is missing in the transmittal letter from Deputy Chief Greiner to the, in the second paragraph. It says, keep the pension plan IRS compliant, and it probably should be, and do not change benefits in any way. Just crossing the T's, dotting the I's.
Okay, can I call, please?
Mr. Roulette?
Yes.
Ms. Rich?
Yes.
Mr. Creel?
Yes.
Mr. Robson?
Yes.
Mr. Slavy?
Yes.
Ms. Tillett?
Yes.
Mayor Jerome?
Yes. Approval for resolution 2016-27 to provide the funding source for the employment software.
It's resolution 2016-27, a resolution of the discretionary sales tax fund of the city of Mount Dora, Florida, pertaining to amending the budget for the fiscal year 2015-16 due to funding of police software, providing for the annual appropriations, and providing for an effective date. That's the resolution by title only.
I move resolution 2016-27.
Second.
Any comments?
I have a question. If we weren't to use the sales tax fund, or let me pose the question. If the sales tax fund were not available, what would you do to fund this?
That's what I was general fund. Fortunately, we do have a sales tax revenue fund that was renewed again for another 15 years.
Any other comments? Anybody from the public wish to comment? Seeing none, we'll ask from council.
I just, and I gotta apologize to the police chief for commenting earlier, thank you, comment about budgeting, and maybe it should have been here, is that I just want us to do as much as we can, and I realize this comes down to about $20 per citizen, so, I understand the incrementality of it, but I really would like to see all these sorts of things on the 5-year plan or somewhere along the way rather than something that comes up, in a year. It just seems better. So just think all those ideas that are out there, bring them forward rather than have it come to us this way. That's it.
Okay. Any other comments? Roll call, please.
Mr. Robson?
Yes.
Ms. Tillett?
Yes.
Mr. Slavy?
Yes.
Ms. Rich?
Yes.
Mr. Creel?
Yes.
Mr. Roulette?
Yes.
Mayor Jerome?
Yes. And the approval for resolution 2016-25, Mr. Wood, please.
Yes, Mr. Pranger. Resolution number 2016-25, a resolution of the city of Mount Dora, Florida, relating to the provision of fire protection services, facilities, and programs in the city of Mount Dora, establishing legislative findings, imposing fire services assessments against assessed property located within the city for the fiscal year beginning October 1, 2016, approving the rate of assessment, approving the assessment roll, providing severability, and providing an effective date. That's the resolution by title, Mr. President.
Thank you. A motion for approval?
Second.
Any comments?
As I said before, I have no problem with funding, I have no problem with fee. We can tax the people, they understand that. Throwing the fee on there, I never did care for that. People are smarter than that, they know it's a three-letter word for tax. And we need a fire truck, we need a fire truck. But I just don't agree with fees. I'm voting no, like I did last time. That's what it's doing.
Thank you.
Just to make sure, if I understand it, that we all understand, I'm on the same page with everybody. The only reason for this repetitive assessment resolution is because of the new property that's come in since the last one, and we have to do that by law. That's really so we don't have to re-advertise it anyway. Thank you.
I think it's renewed from last year, it's good till next year, something like that, it's automatic.
Well, next week.
When it was voted in the first time, which I voted on.
Yeah, no, next year we'll have to do the same thing for the last time for this process. After that point, we would have to go back through the whole process of reviewing everything and determining whether or not the council who's on the seat at that time wants to have a fire assessment fee. But this is going to sunset in September 30th of 2018. And the monies that we generate from this will pay the 3 annual payments that we'll have for the leasing of the fire trucks. It's a lease purchase. Go ahead.
Any other comments?
I agree with Mr. Rowland, in the concept and the tax impact of that. But I was wondering, and maybe this isn't the time for this, but if we could sometime between now and next year, see if there's any financial benefit in the administrative cost of sunsetting it a year early, and then acknowledging that the funds would have to come from Anvil or somewhere else. But if there's, this process here costs. So somehow, if we could just, maybe if it's a bar napkin, say we save this much money, it would help me understand it better.
Okay, that's at the discretion of council,
Right.
if they want to go forward.
So when would we want to ask for that by? I mean, within the next 3-4 months?
I would say probably by December, January, I would think would be a good time to readdress it. We could go through this process at that point, and that will determine whether you all are interested in going forward. We were going to try to do that, and for whatever reason, the former manager didn't want to put it on right away, and it came down to we have to get this done in order to meet deadlines, so we could do it early.
Well, I'm going to go for it. I'm going to do it.
It's my understanding this is a legal requirement that you have to publicly notice the fact that there is a fire fee and how much it is because new people move in, so you have to do this every year to take care of the people who move in and build a house or buy a house and go, what? What do you mean? So,
yeah, and we noticed with a letter to all the new residents, and we had an ad that went into the newspaper. It was probably, I'm guessing, total less than $10,000 for the whole process of it. I'm not sure what I don't know what the ad cost right yet. I don't know. The mailing, I don't think were that expensive.
Citizens understand taxes, but the fee is just something that's thrown at them. I mean, it's not, they're not able to write it off, not as a big deal like that, but it's just something that's thrown out there that could be illegal, like those things are all the time. My opinion.
Just that I'm not interested in revisiting this other than the time when we need to at the end of the 3-year period. We've got an agreement with the public that we've done this, and to kind of redig the hole after that's happened in the middle of some process or even toward the end only creates confusion. I think we've made a decision. We got to move forward with it during this 3-year period. When we're done, let's revisit it. That's the time we're going to do it. We'll do another study if we need to.
It would require a new study by that time.
Mr. Kraft.
I agree completely with what Mr. Morrison said.
Anybody else from the council?
yeah, I don't have a problem with getting data ahead of time as far as how much it costs to administer this, whatever. I think we had an agreement that, if we could sunset it a year early, I don't know yet. So I don't have the appropriate amount of data to really make a decision whether that's worth it or not. But I don't certainly have any objection to getting smart on it before the 3 years is up.
If we did sunset it before 2018, then we have two options. We either go to the general fund or to the sales tax revenue fund to fund that final year.
Because we will still.
Okay, I want to hold discussion on any future talk about about sunsetting this early, and that'll be a whole nother discussion at another time. Right now, we're just going to approve our final assessment fee that we have to do right now, and then we can have another discussion on the a sunsetting at another time in the future date at that point. So, then we'll talk on
I just have one question about the money that's coming this year. This is the first year
We are, last year, the year that we're in is the first year.
that we pay, I know, but that we
Yeah.
paid for the fire, we paid the first,
We have not paid anything yet.
got it.
We're working, releasing two, to get everything, all our ducks in a row with them. And then it'll probably, the first payment won't come until next year in July is what they're anticipating. Because they will 100% fund the two fire trucks. And then our first payment, according to what I saw last, would be probably in July, I estimated. But it could be earlier.
So this year we'll make two of the three payments, or
None of the three payments.
the money that is collected via the fire assessment fee this upcoming year.
Okay.
The future money that will be coming into the coffers.
We'll make the first payment.
We'll make the first payment, got it.
Okay, anybody from the public wish to comment? Seeing none, back to council for final comments. Can we roll call, please?
Ms. Tillett?
Yes.
Ms. Rue?
Yes.
Mr. Wilson?
Yes.
Mr. Slavy?
Yes.
Mr. Creel?
Yes.
Mr. Roulette?
No.
Mayor Jerome?
Yes. Okay, we have a proclamation proclaiming the Parks and Recs. Mr. Hughes, why don't you just stand up there and at least, if I can, we have the sign proclamation?
We don't have this
Okay,
sign.
we're gonna have one sign, it won't be us, so you can hang it up in your office, but anyway. This is designation of July as the Parks and Recreation Month. Whereas the Parks and Recreation programs are an integral part of communities throughout this country, including the city of Mount Dora. And whereas our parks and recreation are vitally important in establishing and maintaining the quality of life in our communities, ensuring the health of all citizens, and contributing to the economic and environmental well-being of the community and region. And whereas parks and recreation programs build healthy, active communities that aid in the prevention of chronic disease and also improve the mental and emotional health of all citizens. And whereas parks and recreation programs increase a community's prosperity through increased property values, expansion of the local tax base, tourism, increased tourism, and the attraction and retention of businesses and crime reduction. And whereas parks and recreation areas are fundamental to the environmental well-being of our community, and whereas parks and natural recreational areas improve water quality, protect groundwater, prevent flooding, improve the quality of the air we breathe, provide vegetative buffers to development and produce habitat for wildlife. And whereas our parks and natural recreation areas ensure the ecological beauty of our community and provide a place for children and adults to connect with nature and recreate outdoors. And whereas the U.S. House of Representatives has designated July as Parks and Rec Month, and whereas Mount Dora recognizes the benefits derived from parks and recreation resources, now be it resolved by the city of Mount Dora that July is recognized as Parks and Recreation Month in the city of Mount Dora. And I think that's a really great proclamation following on what you guys accomplished this past weekend. And I made mention the other night, and it was just a phenomenal job with our Parks and Rec and Chris Carson and the rest of the staff. And I'm going to include the police department and really the whole city as a whole.
It was a lot of
Fire department and what went on in the city for this weekend. And they never just worked their tails off, and they just did a fabulous job. The safety of the community was there. We had record crowds down in the Simpson Cove, out in the boats, out in the Evans Park. They were just phenomenal. You guys did a great job. Congratulations.
Well, thank you. I appreciate it.
Okay, we have some old business. We're going to discuss, I'm going to add an item here to discuss on the ethics. Mr. Wilson. Thank you.
We're scheduled to have
ethics seminar is coming the 8th, 4-hour seminar. And just before, after the agenda was prepared, I found or got my hands on the fact that there is an identical 4-hour ethics seminar planned for the Eustis Community Center, and other cities in this area are also invited to that. The cost is $13 for the whole seminar, which amounts to the meal. In this case, while I have no problem paying our legal counsel for doing the seminar, I'm sure he'd be the first one to say if we can save $600 to $1,000 legal fees versus do this for $15, it would be worth the investment. Now it's in August, and because this just came up now, I certainly would have gotten it on the agenda earlier. My recommendation is that we consider postponing the July 8th ethics seminar, and in lieu of all of us signing up for the one which we have to do by Florida law now, have 4 hours of ethics, that we sign up for this one for $15 versus the attorney's fees for 4 hours plus the preparation could be $600 to $1,000, maybe more. He's certainly entitled to pay for what he's done, for what he's done now if we agree to this. But if it will save $600 to $1,000, it's well worth it to me to get the same seminar for one-tenth the price. And it seems to me that while in delaying it, we have the whole year to do this, and it's in August. It's on August 12th. Registration is another 2 weeks ahead. I had staff check to see if there's going to be room, and they said absolutely there's more than enough room to be there. We have our other colleagues there that can dialogue, and we can hear the benefit of their input. So that's my recommendation. If there's a consensus for that, I'll make a motion.
I like that idea. I have a question. It's my understanding, and I could be wrong, that the Friday session with Mr. Groot covers more than ethics, open meeting laws, and the sunshine, the typical thing. I don't.
This will cover that.
The plan is to cover quasi-judicial procurement and some other things too, but I encourage you to do this. I think it's a great idea. And we can postpone the other training to another time.
Just be one less thing you would have to talk to us about, because this is the mandated one, correct? This will cover the mandates. That's also, we'll get the certificates where was needed for that. Would any, this open to any candidates also, because somewhere along the line they have to fill certain things within whoever does get elected or whatever they do things, and they strictly for current people.
I move that we postpone the planned ethics seminar by Mr. Groot on the 8th of July, and that we all ask our clerk to register us for the Friday, August 12, 2016 seminar scheduled at Eustis Community Center.
I'll second that.
Any other comments?
Yes. Like I said, I thought we were going to learn more than just on the Friday meeting. So are you recommending now, is there any urgency to perhaps having a shortened meeting on Friday on the other topics, or should we postpone this? I guess I'm looking to the attorney for recommendations.
I concur in y'all taking this course. Part of what was planned for Friday, Mr. Colbert and I, was the ethics and sunshine law type issues. But I encourage you to do this. I really do. Some point in the future, we really want to do a quasi-judicial training session. Because at some point, you're going to be faced with some development approvals that are going to be interesting and complex, and you don't want to make mistakes while you approve or disapprove that, whatever. So at some point in the future, I really want to do that, and we can throw some other things in at that time, since you're all together. But I encourage you to do this.
I have one more comment. Mr. Crail and I had our required ethics and sunshine law in January, so it is, I'm assuming then that this is not mandatory for the two of us because we have had, so.
And there's online opportunities if you don't have enough hours too. So and I've sent you about 2 or 3 emails showing you a bunch of online opportunities.
Okay, I might add this too, that the seminar that we've got planned on the 8th is 4 hours, but if it covers other things, we need actual 4 hours of what this does, and that's ethics by Florida law, so we've got to certainly comply with that, and I think that dovetails nicely. I appreciate Mr. Bruce supporting that.
Got a motion and a second, and, see, we need to have public input on this.
If you make a decision, you need to offer.
Okay, so, anybody from the public wish to comment? See none, back to council, any other comments? And, let's have a roll call, please.
Okay, Mr. Ralston?
Yes.
Ms. Rich?
Yes.
Mr. Slavy?
Yes.
Ms. Tillett?
Yes.
Mr. Creel?
Yes.
Mr. Rolette?
Yes.
Mayor Jerome?
Yes. Okay, and under new business, we have a memorandum regarding proposed millage rate for fiscal year 2016-17, and establish a schedule for the budgetary process. Seeing that, before you get into that, seeing we don't even have a budget in front of us at this point, and I would really like for somebody to make and I would entertain a motion for the table this until we have at least the budget in hand, and then we can address it. We've got until August the 4th to go, so we don't have another meeting. We have a budget hearing also coming up, so I really don't want to do anything without even having the budget in front of us. And at this point,
At this point, all we're asking is to have the maximum millage rate that we would have. You don't have to do that. The budget, in fact, is based on 5,997. That's the maximum we anticipate. Once you set it on August 4th, if you go up, you can't do anything else. If you go down, that's no problem. You'll do it by resolution in September and on the final hearing. Okay, this is just to give you notice of when the dates of the first and second hearing are. And, here's a Form 420 that needs to be filled out by August 4th. And the next opportunity I think you would have is you'll have the budget.
you're going to give us a budget this week,
This week.
and then we'll have another meeting on the 19th, and I think that would be more appropriate to ask for it at that.
I wasn't gonna be here on the 19th.
So somebody can ask for it.
Okay.
This
That's
time
fine.
I've asked for it, anyways, I'm trouble.
All right.
That's, if the council wants to read that, that's pretty.
I don't have a problem, I still don't like to hear from Mr. Weinberg.
In my experience, this is a typical scenario of asking you to establish the tentative millage levy at this juncture even before we see the budget. But we could do, if you'd like to wait, that's fine, it just condenses it a little bit, but some of the cities that I've served have a higher tentative millage for the reason that Shepherd stated, and that is, you can always come down, can't go higher, so if you see something you think is real urgent, either you can incorporate that into your tentative millage if it's higher or not. So typically the cities establish the tentative millage initially, then receive the budget. So all the budget that we will submit to you is balanced and based upon the current revenues.
My question would be around if we could have our meeting first on July 28th and discuss items, and then set it either at the end of that meeting, or whatever that next council meeting is, if it's before the 4th. And the reason that, while 5.997 might seem like the highest number, in our collective wisdom, we might want to spend more than that. And we haven't really had a chance to jump on about what we want to spend on. And so putting the upper limit, well, the other side of my brain is telling me I can't imagine that we'll go over it, but there's a possibility greater than zero that it could happen.
Yeah, and in that case, you could put 8 if you want, 7, whatever. Our intention right now is 5,997, not to exceed that.
No, I appreciate what you're saying, but I really, and I know, and again, we have it on here, and it needs to be, that I can't make the motion, but if somebody wants to move for tabling and to put it in any other future date, but we do know that has to be done by August the 4th. We are going to get our budget ahead of time. We do have another meeting coming up before that, and we do have
Actually, we do have meetings.
we have the budget workshop itself. We're going to be discussing, and so it will be done prior to August the 4th, which is plenty of time to do anything that's needed for the August 19th printing.
My question is, from Mr. Reinbach or Mr. Shepherd, if it's done at the next council meeting, is that gonna pose any administrative crunches on you? And if not, I don't generally have a problem with it, but, because I can certainly understand your rationale for when you go back to budget. I for one will not be increased to 5.997 on my watch, but, I'm only 107.
Our work is done until you look at the budget and give us other direction. So again, we're providing you a balanced budget based on our existing revenues. So if you do change the date, I would suggest at the end of August, having a call meeting after the workshop so that you can take action to establish the.
Usually July.
I'm in July. Sorry about that.
We usually have these resolutions already pre-printed, I believe.
Resolution won't come into effect until September. You'll have a tentative resolution for the military and a tentative resolution for the budget or September 8th. If that's the date you all choose.
During the workshop, though, if we did it on the 28th on the workshop, we're allowed to make, we're allowed to take action, correct? Whenever this council meets, we're allowed to take action.
Not in the workshop, in my opinion.
I'm not aware of workshops that we have, so I suppose we can notice it as that, but
You can always notice it for that.
Anytime you meet, you can take action, but when you say you're gonna have a workshop, and the public can rely upon that you're not going to take.
But can we include it in the notice?
You can make it a meeting, yes, not just a workshop. Now, I had down a budget workshop for this Thursday, the 7th. I need to.
Initially,
Did that go away somehow?
Yes.
We just didn't know about it?
That was initially done back in March,
Right?
and we were hoping to do that, but it didn't turn out. We were working on getting the budget down to a balanced budget. It is that now.
What time on the 28th would we be meeting?
5:30, right?
5:30, unless y'all want to meet otherwise.
That's fine. I think we'll the schedule for that.
if we have a city council meeting on the 19th, which we do, and we're gonna get the budget before that, why can't we do that on the 19th? Rather than so late and put the staff in the crunch?
Well, I can still, as long as you do it by August 2nd, I will have plenty of time to get the DR 420 filled out. It's essentially filled out with 5997 on it right now.
Just has to change it.
The only thing I don't have on there for at the time is the dates of the first and tentative hearing and final hearing.
I don't mind postponing, I think you made a point there that makes some sense. I don't like to have workshops meshed in with actual council decisions. I'd rather do it on the 19th, if that's gonna work, because we'll have the budget by then.
No, we won't, because that's the 28th. We're gonna have a budget.
No, you have the budget. You have the budget by the end of this week.
I think what,
The end of this week.
I believe what Mr. Saby or somebody had mentioned about the fact that there is an opportunity when we have the workshop. The max is going to be the 5, is going to be the 599. So, but even at that evening, if by chance the budget even got trimmed, because you still have to go through a public process, and then the total amount can be done that evening. And just in case we take Mr. Slavy's scenario that, hey, we find things that maybe the citizens want or whatever, and we come in here and we want to maybe add an extra couple points or whatever, who knows? And if anything like that would happen, then that evening we would know that for the workshop. We would know that kind of scenario. We would either raise it or to just do it at that point.
Okay, so it says that this is a maximum tentative millage rate is what the paperwork says. I don't, if it's tentative, then raising it is no issue if it's tentative?
It's a big issue.
All right,
Because
so
you have to have.
the word
this-
tentative really means kind of locked in stone
No, you're-
unless you
it's
count
tentative, you
those.
go down. You go down.
That part I understand, the going down. I just wondered, because of the word tentative, to me, tentative is not locked in stone, but apparently this sort of kind of is locked in stone.
It is, again,
If you want to go up.
you want to go up
To jump the
regardless of
hoops. Got it,
Yes.
okay.
The other thing I'd like to suggest, with all due respect to Councilmember Olson, is on the 28th, we're going to have the department directors here. I mean, I guess we can do it on the 19th, you won't have as much time, but I think you need that interaction, like we did on the capital improvement plan, to really get a grasp of the budget and needs represented to you before you act upon it. So I recommend still the 28th, again, with due respect.
Can we then, will you have enough, we will need to call another meeting then, or a formal meeting to enact this or to recommend it after the 28th?
We can do that
Before
on
the
the
4th?
August 2nd meeting.
Okay.
We have a regular meeting scheduled for August 2nd. We can do it on that day.
So in that case, you're gonna have to issue that notice. That's good. Yeah, that's great.
All I have to do is fill that in and say, send.
My only comment is want to make sure that the staff.
I think we're okay, it's just, it's, again, prior to council, we get a motion on a second to change the date and the process, and then need a motion on a second to change the date.
Excuse me, August 2nd you were talking about?
No. It'll be, that'll be the date that we're going to have, yes, August the 2nd would be the date that we will have the millage rate approved in that on August 2nd.
We'll have,
Yes. And this way we'll be going through our workshops and everything, we'll be discussing it, going to workshop, the rates and everything.
As long as management's okay, I'll move that we postpone our recommendation of the millage rate set out on page 442 of our agenda and postpone that until the 28th. That's right. That is fine.
And I'll second that.
Any other comments? Only on order here, but Mr. Crail's comments kind of got me thinking about that meeting for the 7th. You know, you're going to have an opportunity for us as a group to set another meeting before the 28th to talk about budgets, or is that inappropriate at this point to talk?
Well, that's what we're doing at the 28th workshop. That whole thing was just canceled out, and their new schedule was for the first, for our workshop being on the 28th.
Okay, so our first next meeting to talk budget is the
It's
28th.
28th, right? And you're going to get a budget by the end of this week, so.
and if you choose to have another workshop after that, that's fine too.
Yes. Okay, anybody from the public wish to comment on this motion? Seeing none, anybody else from the council again? All in favor of the change? Okay, passes. Okay, thank you. And, city attorney update? Mr. Rude.
Well, on the first item, the update, I really have nothing to say unless y'all want to discuss the city clerk position. I mean, it's all your job.
I have no interest in discussing changing the charter through this process. If it's to be discussed, I have more than a dozen reasons why it's not smart to do that as this council. And I won't be wasting anybody's time if we're not going to consider that. It's just an opportunity to try to review Commissioner Durable. And that wasn't even brought up. One of our council members was a member of that. And so just, my concern is that it seems like the public is going to see this as a power grab by this council, and I think that's unfortunate. I don't want to discuss it. I guess I did.
Very good, that's
So, I wanted to bring it up only because there's some emails going around, and I really like to put stuff out in the open. Whether the appropriate venue is now, or you know, having it
on the external review committee, that's fine, but I think I don't understand it enough to make some really good comments here. If our city is extremely different from everybody else, if we're, 50-50, it's just something that, we want to discuss and make it best for the city. If it was a dotting of an I, crossing of a T event, sure, then maybe a little more urgency, but, I think it just needs, any good idea or any maybe good idea should always just get tossed around, so I think there's no sense of urgency on my part.
I think right now we're in a situation where if it's not broke, we don't need to fix it, and I think, when I served the council, and I served, and I think, when you look at, I think the job description, she goes well beyond the job description. I think what she just did the job description, that is what was laid out. There'd be a lot of things that you guys would be asking for that she can just say, I'm not going to do it because it's not my job description. But she does for us, and which I appreciate greatly for that. So, but if there's anything, when we do get into charter review, I have some thoughts when it does come to our charter positions that that we'll express at that time if we ever decide to talk about any amendments to the charter for this, that we want to put on the ballot, which there's a deadline for that. So if any discussion, we won't have to do that. So, but if not, then we'll just wait for a charter review, and then the council can decide if they want to confer or convene a charter review committee, and then we can address it as a group at that point for next year's ballot.
I only have one more comment, by echoing on what you said, and I just want to be clear, it has nothing to do with any individual on this board. In fact, when I think about the charter, I think of 1 or 2 generations later, that if something's done the right way, whatever that is. So I take seriously the charter and the idea that was bandied about us in the email that it might be a change worth discussing. Certainly that's all.
We work well as this illustrious clerk, so well, Mr. Mayor, commended to politicize that position 50-50 by checking mayor council forms of government. Some are appointed, some clerks are appointed by the council, and the other 50% are controlled by the manager. And we've been this for 100 years. I don't know anybody who ever did it otherwise. And it's, like you said, it isn't broke, it doesn't need fixing. So,
And there's some states out there, and I think Ohio is one that elects the city clerks. And I don't know if Florida does at all. There's nobody, I don't think anybody elects in Florida, do they? City clerks?
Yeah, you there.
Okay, so it can't be, okay.
There's 1 or 2
So there's always options if anybody wants to do changes, and, but for right now, I don't think we need that, so. Anything else?
And I have one comment to say about that. Just as a, a point of interest, it's my understanding that those cities that were first incorporated as a council manager form of government have clerks that are charter positions. Those that have migrated, those cities that were incorporated with a different form of government, and it could have been maybe a strong mayor or a council weak mayor, or I can't remember all the different the types. There's a handful, but those cities that were incorporated with a different form of government and then migrated towards the type of government that we have had clerks that were more administrative, that began as administrative positions and then continued under the chief administrative officer, whatever that individual was called, and I thought that was interesting. The other thing is that sort of piece of information I gleaned while trying to research this a little bit was that some of the clerks that are charter wish they weren't, and some that aren't wish they were, and that there are quite a few, there are pros and cons to both. It has just, I've seen the emails going around too, and there's absolutely nothing that has to do with any personality of anybody sitting at this table. Glenn included, who I think does a great job, and by the way, has the highest certification level of clerks. But it's just simply, hey, it might be worth a discussion in the future when we get around to discussing other things that possibly need to be reviewed in the charter versus our system of ordinances or whatever. I would just like to make sure that our charter and our system of, our ordinance codes all actually agree with each other so that there's not competing or conflicting information, and they're clear and easy to read and easy to understand, and we don't have to read between the lines and that kind of thing. So that's all.
In my communication with Lynn Tipton and four of the cities who respected for decades of knowledge about city government in Florida, she informed me that it's a mayor council forms of government, it's a council manager form of government, it's a 50-50 split.
Yes, that's what she told me too.
I don't ever mind looking at our charter, but we need to remember the charter is our residents' constitution. And if we're gonna tweak the constitution, we better do it through a charter review process and not piecemeal and nitpicking a piece of here, and then the next council meeting we'll do another one for the next election. I think that cheats the residents that ought to have the primary input into decisions for changing our charter. They certainly do in the vote, but they also have to have, if we did it today, as an example, which we won't, to give them 3 minutes here to comment on that is not correct, bordering on insulting those that would be governed, that would be their constitution. So I don't have any problem looking at a charter review process in total where we could add everything we did. Mr. Slavy served on that. We covered the kitchen sink. Anybody that wanted to change, put it in there. It was voted on, and we know the results. So I don't have any problem looking at that. We can do it every year if you want to, for all I'm concerned. We do it about every 5 years. But to do it piecemeal by a council action, I don't support that.
I don't think anybody was.
No, we're not going to be doing that, so it's, we don't need to discuss it anymore as far as, because we're not gonna be doing any kind of charter change this year for that, at least I don't think, anything else, because we're kind of late in the process for that. So if there's any other discussion for anything relevant, that is not gonna happen, so.
I just want to bring a point to our existing charter, under the duties and responsibilities of the city manager. Section 23, Part B, his duties are to direct and supervise the administration of all departments, offices, and agencies of the city of Mount Dora, except as otherwise provided by this charter by law. So, as I understand it, Gwen is an employee working for you and takes direction from you.
Right, just like all these.
Okay, so I don't see it as an issue with the way our charter is written.
Okay, next item.
The next item is a request from Insurance Legal Counsel to hold a litigation strategy session on July 12th at 5:30 p.m. And we are asking that you schedule a meeting for that date and time to discuss them down home litigation.
It was the executive session, or it was for, yes, you wanted to schedule for July the 12th at 5:30. There is a meeting in the community center that evening also, which someone hold, we can do this on the 12th, but can we hold our executive session around 4:30? Because usually they take roughly about an hour, this executive session roughly.
I'm sure that won't cause them any issues.
Okay.
You can adjust.
It's okay with the rest of the council, because there's going to be, the FDOT is going to be talking a lot, there's going to be a big presentation on the the different sections of everything's going on, 46, coming into Mount Dora, and I'm sure council would like to be attending that also.
I'll make sure the insurance council is fine with that, and I'll let you know, but that's the direction I'm taking, that it would be at 4:30 on the 12th.
Okay, and if not, then we'll do it at 5:30, we'll fall back. Right.
Okay, is that going to be individual or is it be?
It's gonna be, this is what we're doing, it's gonna be the executive session like we did before when Mr. Shepherd called the executive session. Back then he called it a shade meeting, executive session, same thing. Pardon me? Litigation strategy meeting.
I move I'm sorry, Council, I'm sorry.
Okay, sometimes I can get out of work early, and sometimes I can't, and I don't know about that date, and I need to be here for that, so to me, it worked better after 5.
I like everybody to be here, but we, it's.
Since the FDOT meeting in the community center, there's at 5:30 is like a reception where people walk around and look at the pictures and things, and then it starts at 6, right? Like
6:30. That's the formal presentation.
The formal presentation.
But a lot of the stuff that the council also goes interact with the public, their questions and things like that.
I understand that. So my question is, can we compromise and maybe do it from 5 to 6 here, and then we would have missed the first half hour, but we'd be available for the second half hour. So, and that's just a suggestion.
Okay, so then, so let's go with 5 o'clock, and then if that's not fine with the insurance council, then just keep it at the 5:30, and we'll just have to adjust, we can do it as council at that time.
I'll let you know what it is. I move we set an executive session to receive information from our insurance counsel on the Dallin One case for 5 o'clock PM here in this building, on July 12th. And, okay, we're just gonna roll on that one there. I have a quick, will you be in attendance, or will we just insurance counsel?
The insurance council and somebody from Buckley.
That's it? Okay, and can we have let's get a roll call on that, please.
So we forget.
Take time.
Okay, Mr. Robson?
Yes.
Ms. Rich? Yes. Mr. Slavy?
Yes.
Ms. Tillett?
Yes.
Mr. Creel?
Yes.
Mr. Roulette?
Yes.
Mayor Jerome?
Yes.
Thank you. Thank you very much. City manager update.
Just have a couple items for you, Mayor and City Council members. I want to advise you that City Attorney's Office, City Attorney and staff met in regards to the land acquisition policy. I think that we cleared up some miscommunication and some little confusion in that process. We all agreed upon policy to recommend to you. I think that was distributed to you tonight. I don't know if that's sufficient for you to act upon, but we would ask your approval of this process. Again, all of us are in agreement that this is the best way for the city of Mount Dora to proceed. So if you're willing to do it tonight, fine. If not, we'll put it on the agenda. Okay.
Basically what is some of the confusion that was arising and some past emails that the council got to see, and quite a few of them, as a matter of fact. This kind of put it into the policy format, which is a good matrix, really, is it's going to be very helpful for staff and the council to know exactly what's going on with this. And I have no problem in somebody making a motion for approval of this recommendation tonight.
Mr. Mayor, I, like Ms. Tillett, haven't had a chance to read it. I'm glad, very glad that they had a meeting of the minds on this. Would it hurt to put this on the next agenda? Just give us a chance. I really appreciate Mr. Weinbach, Mr. Drew, Mr. Peters, whoever else was involved in doing this. I think this is an important clarification. I'm sure it's fine, but
It should be an easy task to I agree.
Okay.
We'll put on
And you get on this way, then they'll be on there for the both to review and we can make fun of that. It'll be great.
Next, if you allow, I'd like to ask our Public Works Director to advise you of a grant program that we've been successful achieving for budget. That's always good.
Shame we couldn't get the governor to go along with the $2 million you reserved from
We got a story. Yes.
Good evening, John Peters, Public Works Director. Under the previous city manager, we budgeted $50,000 for tree-related activity, primarily tree inventory, what everybody had envisioned. We found a grant opportunity through the State Forestry Department. We applied for a grant for $30,000 to give us a total of $80,000. The three components of the grant application were to do a tree inventory of city right-of-way and city property with a certified arborist. The second part was to develop a tree committee program, to have tree committees, and we, at staff level, we looked at a couple of options. And then the third component was having the certified arborist assisted with the ordinance process to enhance our ordinance to do what we want to. We put in the application the issue that occurred with the downtown project and removal of several oak trees. And but the good news is we received notice last week that we won the $30,000 grant. So we just wanted to confirm that. And the bad news is we got to get off our duck and get started with it. So with your permission, we will bring forward an RFP for the tree inventory process with the certified arborist to get this going. And then we will outline in that same report what we believe is a good direction to go. One of the models that we're looking at is the city of Pittsburgh, and I'm going to tell us we'll be looking at it tonight before it goes to bed. But the city of Pittsburgh has what they call neighborhood programs, where they have a separate committee for different neighborhoods, and what we have envisioned as a starting point would be like a historic district board, and then a country club and outdoor board, because we have some serious tree problems in the country club and outdoor. And it's going to require some serious discussions. And so what we would like to propose, I'm just giving you a lead-in, if we work on two committees to start with, and then we can branch out into other areas of the city. But that would be part of my recommendation.
I think that's a great idea. And I know that there's interested citizens who have been, doing their homework judiciously and have been talking to staff and trying to get their heads wrapped around, what's the best way for the city as a whole to preserve and enhance our green life. So I think that's great. Congratulations to whoever, worked so diligently on writing that grant and getting it through. I know that's a big coup. That's great. They don't do that all. They don't give that out a lot. So it really good for them.
I think, Mayor and Council, that, we're always fortunate because we have such good staff. And Mr. Peters and his staff have done this, I presume, I didn't do it. And so I want to commend Mr. Peters and his staff to put this together, whoever did it, for the foresight to see this money laying there and help our taxpayers out. It's a great task, and
That would also include the city clerk and deputy city clerk.
very good. Didn't mean to avoid anybody that doesn't deserve the credit.
Yeah, just one reminder, that is the goal setting session this coming Saturday.
Yes.
Beginning at 8:30. They will be in this room and I'll set up, ready to go.
Before we go into the council comments, I got a signal that they were going to have Mr. Slavin do the rest of it, so to take a 10-minute break right now, and it'll end up being 10, so I'll just say 10 to start with, so, and